Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Simply Great Relationships podcast. Today, we're talking about why asking your partner how they're doing is extra important right now. Because it is.
Super important, right? I think there is this kind of mis I don't know, misunderstanding or misassumption
Mhm.
that just because you're in quarantine with someone and you're spending a lot of time with them, you know how they're doing without even asking.
Magic.
Like you're a psychic,
Yeah.
but you don't know if
No.
you don't ask. And you
Mhm.
also don't know if your partner just goes, or fine.
True.
And I think this is, like anybody who's been my client is probably laughing because I'm always like, you have to do your nightly check-ins. You have to
Mm.
do them, right? And I realized for a long time I was saying that and people didn't really know how to do them.
Mm.
And I think now they're more important than ever.
Yeah.
And I think that giving you guys some structure around how to do them, how to respond, and why they're valuable is, kind of a really valuable thing right now.
Yeah, definitely. How do you do that? What's your recommendation?
So my thing is, usually during the before times, I would say like as you're winding down, do them in bed. But now, kids' schedules are off, your schedule's off. It's really about finding any time in your day that's protected
Mm-hmm.
where you can really give each other attention and it's cell phones away and it's really giving each other that undivided attention. Not long, 10 to 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You ask your partner speaks. If you need to grab out a feelings wheel, you grab out a feelings wheel because it's important to name your feelings,
Yeah.
right? And then, if you want to ask any follow-ups or you want to kind of give a little like, oh, it totally makes sense that you feel this way because to make your partner feel really validated,
Mm-hmm.
you do that and then you just swap
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. You're not offering advice, you're not solving problems, you're not doing anything other than saying like this is how I feel because of this
Mm-hmm.
and then having that validated and then switching roles.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really powerful. And, we'll definitely link the feelings wheel in the show notes because I find, and I'm sure people who are listening will laugh at this as well. Like, I'll do this in session sometimes, right? I'll have partners ask them, how are you, tell me what's going on for you today or whatever. And they'll say like one word or, it's this
Hmm.
very brief thing. And I'm like,
Hmm.
can you say more words? Like,
Hmm. Yeah.
what, say more things. And what the other
Yeah.
partner always laughs because it's like, that's what I always ask. Like, your partner wants to know. Sometimes we
Yeah.
hold back or we just say, fine.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's because we don't want to unearth this thing again, right? I know a lot of
Hmm.
people that I work
Hmm.
with feel like work is done or whatever the stressor was is done and over now. I don't want to unpack it again. I don't want to
Hmm.
like talk about it. Okay. But,
But I think it's important to note, like, this is where you're making an error because you're literally holding that stress in your body and in your nervous system versus naming it and taming it, right?
mhm.
There's like, Dan Siegel has a whole book on this,
Yeah.
right? About naming your feeling in order to tame it and the neurobiology that goes with that.
Mhm.
So if you're holding on to the faulty belief that you don't want to, like revisit feelings because it's going to make you feel more overwhelmed,
Mhm.
that's just not true. It's going to make you feel less overwhelmed. And it's really important to hold to that fact
Yeah.
that not talking about your feelings is what leaves you overwhelmed versus actually naming them.
Yeah. Cuz I think sometimes people mistake feeling the feeling for
Hmm.
being overwhelmed or being somehow negatively affected, but feeling the feeling is just a normal part of the human experience. So if you're talking
Hmm.
about something that was stressful, of course you'll feel stressed, but ignoring it or watching TV till you don't think about it
Hmm.
anymore isn't going to remove the stressed feeling.
Hmm. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to a really good book on this, and I forget what it is, but I'll link it in the show notes. But what they were basically saying is a feeling is a fleeting sensation, just like any fleeting sensation,
Mm.
if you like name it, versus, holding it in. So it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like holding a muscle until it starts to hurt versus like acknowledging that you're tensing your muscle and then letting it go.
Interesting. Very interesting. I know that's been a barrier for some people to share their feelings, especially on a daily basis. And then another barrier I've heard is just that they've had not great experiences in their relationship where they've shared things and either they
Hmm.
felt invalidated by their partner or they felt
Hmm.
criticized or judged. Right? It hasn't been a good experience. So over time,
Hmm.
they've learned not to share anymore.
So this is where you don't just have to be a good communicator, you have to be a good recipient of your partner's feelings. And we've done a bunch of episodes on this where like your job is not to react to your partner's feelings and not to get defensive and not to try to solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You're being a neutral listener,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's the other half of the check-in, and sometimes the half that like you think is the easier but is the harder one. Because you need to be able to make your partner feel really safe when they're expressing their feelings, especially if they're the person who has three feelings, which are fine, overwhelmed, and stressed. Um,
Mm-hmm.
this is the pre-feelings wheel. The feelings wheel is going to change your lives, guys. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I find people that are usually stuck in the loop of those three feelings, like their partners need to create the safety for them to express more feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that has to do with the past of the relationship or past that predates the relationship, it's really important to ask the question like, what would make you feel safe right now? Or
Mm-hmm.
how can I be a better listener? How can I be a better holder of your feelings?
Mm-hmm.
And usually the answer to that is just really attuned listening, which means you're listening, but you're not bringing in your own feelings. You're not making it about yourself. You're just saying, like, I heard you say that you feel really, emotionally overwhelmed by what's going on with your job because there's a lot of uncertainty. And that totally makes sense because I know your job's really important to you. And I
Mm-hmm.
can imagine it does feel really scary not knowing where it's going to go because you've put in so much effort to get to where you're at,
Yeah.
right? Like something like that, doing a lot of validating,
Mm-hmm.
but not saying, but I think you should do this and I
Mm-hmm.
think you should do that. And, this is where you zigged where you should have zagged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's all
definitely.
stuff that's going to get your partner to shut down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's really this is a two-way street. And the responsibility for showing up and making this happen and making it happen in a way that is is as intended, right? Where it feels you both have the opportunity to feel heard, to feel supported,
Mhm.
to feel connected, to feel closer. It's a really nice touch point to have every day.
Mhm.
But just remember, each of you has a role to fulfill
Mhm.
in that.
Mhm. Another thing that I've seen people bring up as like an impasse to these is somebody saying like, I feel really stressed. And the response to that is, well, I feel really stressed too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's a big, big one. It's sort of the one upping, right? The like
Mhm.
that it somehow feels like a threat to your stress if your
Mhm.
partner is also stressed, right?
Mhm.
And even I would say I've heard people say it in another way where they the intention is not even to one up or be defensive. The intention is to be relatable, right? Like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, me too. I'm so stressed, right?
Yeah.
Like we're both in it together, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels like a I can't have my stress space
Mhm.
because you're stressed, right?
Mhm.
Or I can't be
Mhm.
angry because you're angry, or I can't,
Mhm.
so it
Mhm.
becomes the messaging gets very tricky there.
Mhm. So I think it's really, really important to go into a check-in
Mm-hmm.
knowing that when you're the listener, it's about your partner.
Yeah.
It's about giving them space. And if you relate to a feeling, wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
That's called empathy.
Mm-hmm.
but empathy you can feel without blurting out, I feel that feeling too.
Yeah.
You can, I promise you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's a lot of value to that.
Yeah.
To saying, like, I understand you are having this feeling right now without saying, and I do also, because that's really what that is you taking the attention off of them
Right.
and onto you. And the whole point of a check-in is to give your partner the spotlight
Mm-hmm.
to talk about their feelings and show them that they and their feelings are really important and you are extremely lovingly curious
Yeah.
about what's going on in their inner world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's the goal. I think, and I like to, when I encourage couples to do this, I try to say, like, you can have those other conversations. You just can't
Hmm.
have it in this time period.
Yeah.
Like, just block out this time, make sure it happens every day, honor the rules, and then tomorrow morning or whenever, like, if you want to talk about it in a
Hmm.
different way, go for it. But not
Hmm.
here, you know?
Hmm.
Because sometimes
Yeah.
people feel like, oh, what am I'm going to explode if I don't get to say it.
You're not.
You won't.
I think there are literally zero recorded cases in history of people who have exploded due to not being able to say that one thing they really wanted to say in that conversation.
Oh, I know. So funny. But it's
So
hard, yeah.
it is hard. It is a practice, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is what I tell people every time. This is a practice. A good relationship is the sum of good relationship habits,
Mm, true.
right? This is a good relationship habit.
Mm-hmm.
A habit is something you have to do for 100 days before your brain says, like, ding, habit. Like,
Mm,
so think about it like that
yeah.
and practice it, right? Like, and think about it right now. Right now is a very emotionally loaded time,
Mm-hmm.
and all kinds of stuff is getting triggered for us, right? Like, if you want to just go shallow, it's like, what's going to happen to us seeing our friends this summer?
Yeah.
If you want to go more deeper, like, people are questioning their lives, their earnings, their livelihood, their potential, their mortality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a whole lot of stuff. Don't assume you know what's coming up for your partner, and don't assume your partner knows what's coming up for you if you're not having those conversations.
Yeah. I love that. So make a point starting today. Check in with your partner, share this episode with them so they're on the same page as you, and just start doing the check ins every day. Like Marina said, it's 15 minutes, nothing crazy. And notice how you start to feel closer, more supported, more understood, more valued. These are really impactful, I find.
Mhm. If you want an extra gold star, if you throw in a 90-second hug at the end of it, you have won at relationships.
Thank you. So if you do that, let Marina know and she will send you a gold star.
I will.
Electronically. Gold star. Boop. Awesome. Well, this was a good one. We hope that you try it out. Let us know if you do. You can follow us at Simply Great Relationships on Instagram, and we will catch up with you next week. Bye.
Bye.